You know, people talk a lot about pumpkins and that sort of stuff in the fall, but it's also apple season, folks. Hey there, I am the Mighty Plantain. Thanks for checking out this video. And we are looking at a relatively newcomer on the hard cider scene. And I feel bad that I haven't actually visited these guys at their facility, because they're literally one town away from me, maybe even within stumbling distance, depending on where in that town they are. Anyway, we're looking at Freedom's Edge hard cider, and I say relatively new. I think I first found out about these guys maybe. It seems like it's been less than 2 years ago. EM Destroyer and Jay McKay guys were with me at the Brewfest in. I believe it was it was the summer Bangor Brewfest. Was it this year? Damn, it seems like a while ago. God, the last couple of years have been a blur. Anyway, it was either just this past summer or the summer before that. I believe it was the summer before that. Unfortunately, Bush had to sit that particular Brewfest out. But anyway, we found out about Freedom's Edge. I don't know how long they had been in operation before that. But they had some pretty decent stuff, and it wasn't long before I started seeing them showing up in local stores, including Damon's, which is one of our local packies or bottle store or whatever you call them in your area, liquor and beer stores. So when I saw they had a full lineup of 5 different ciders, I said, you know what? I know some of these are good. Let's check them all out. We're going to do all 5 in one video, just to save you guys the trouble of having to wait for me to release these over the course of a couple of months, and maybe a year later I'll finally get around to the 5th one, because that happens sometimes when I film a bunch of these together and then I don't want to release them all the same thing or beverages from the same place, 1 week after the next. I try to mix it up, but you know what? This time we're just going to do all 5 in one video, and maybe we'll follow it up with some one-offs for newer stuff that they put out in the future. Anyway, yeah, enough about that. We're doing 5 ciders tonight. I should be able to do this. If I pace myself, I won't be in too bad of a shape by the 5th one. That's the trick, though, isn't it? The pacing. All right, so we've got their original semi-dry hard cider. We're going to do that one first. We'll follow that up with cherry... Ooh, hiccups. That's not a good sign. Cherry Bomb, which is also a semi-dry hard cider. That's a limited release. So a couple of these are limited releases. Hopefully they're still around once you see the video. It's another reason to push them out ahead of time, all at once. And then I've got their limited release Mac and Dabby. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Mac Dabby. And then we're going to go to the Sweet Mulled Hard Cider, which is great. Sweet Mullet. Nice. Ape drape, honky hair. Yeah, Captain Mullet head. I don't know. There's other. Anyway, Freedom's Edge, Rose is last, and Rose. Redfield Rose. Is it Redfield Rose or Reedfield? There's a Redfield here in Maine, I believe. Anyway. There's no I, so I'm just going to say Redfield Rose. All right. So that's the order we're going to do them in. I'm going to start with the original semi-dry hard cider. 6.8% ABV. Gluten-free. I'm pretty sure these will all be gluten-free, but I don't know. I'll check it as I go. Cider done right. And I'll read a label on each one. Our family's orchard sits on the 44th northern parallel in Maine, the latitude where apples originated. Really? I didn't know that. I probably should, because I'm sure people have told me before. I've got a family member by marriage who actually pretty much runs an apple orchard. Anyway, because his parents own it. Here, the harsh winter, wet spring, and mild summer provide ideal growing conditions for the bittersweet and bitter-sharp varietals that set our cider apart. Bold, independent, perfectly balanced, made for those who choose to plow their own path forward. Well, I love the sentiments in that. Look at that. Pale, crisp, not cloudy, which is fine. I mean, cloudy's good, but clear is also good. Fairly effervescent. I could smell the apples from the second I opened it to when I was done pouring. It's got a lovely, lovely pale yellow color to it. And yeah, definitely got a nice cider aroma to it, and appley. Hungry for apples. A hint of bitterness underneath. And maybe I can smell a little bit of the alcohol in it, but definitely semi-dry. It's got a hint of a bite to it. A little bit of the alcohol flavor is coming through. It reminds me it's got a bit of a wine character to it. Nothing particularly jumping forward, but it definitely semi-dry up front. Bit of a bite to it. Sweet in the finish. Smooth, easy to drink, nice light mouthfeel. That's actually going to go down pretty quick. It's good. It's good. Again, there's nothing like mind-blowing or different about it. It's just a nice, solid, hard cider, comparable to a lot that I've had. But again, that's not a bad thing. This is their flagship. It's supposed to be a regular cider. I'm hitting this with a 3.5 out of 5. Now, I'm going to try to say this only once during the video. On a scale of 1 to 5, 2.5 is average. So 3.5 is a decent above average rating. This is good. Definitely like a campfire or, outside in the fall beverage. I could see myself drinking this in the summer or maybe even the middle of winter too. Possibly in spring. But for me, it's fall right now, but this just tastes like a fall beverage, so. All right, we're going to finish this up and move on to Cherry Bomb. All right, so we're up to Cherry Bomb, and yes, I do own both sizes of the Sam Adams glasses, so pardon. So we'll be switching back and forth for the tall and short cans. The reason I use the Sam Adams glass on pretty much everything I review is because we're not doing beer tonight, but when it comes to beer, there are several different glasses shaped for different reasons, for different styles of beer. But the Sam Adams glass being made specifically for Sam Adams Boston Lager also has some characteristics that fit most beer styles and can enhance the flavor and the experience using the same methods that it enhances the Boston Lager. So instead of trying to keep 4 different types, 5, 6, 7, 8 different types of glassware on hand, we just stick with the Sam Adams Boston Lager glass. Some people disagree with me on that. That's fine. Send me a set. Maybe I'll start using them. Anyway, so gluten-free as well. Ooh, 7.4% ABV. Okay. I would usually try to go from the higher ABV down to the lower because it's just a solid strategy for the night, taper off as you go so you don't get plowed. But in this particular case, I went for what I think will have less intense flavors to more intense flavors so that it won't interfere with my my taste buds. They're going back in the fridge in between so that they don't get warm, and I am cleansing with water, cleansing the palate with water in between ciders. So, but there's always a chance something's going to carry over and interfere. Happens with hoppy beers too. So, all right, I know I keep going off on segues here. I'm going to try to stop that. So every cherry starts a blossom brilliant, and every cherry starts a blossom brilliant, delicate, and fleeting, a symbol of rebirth, a reminder to pay attention, accept, and find beauty in the transience of life. Revel in all the graces that surround us. Stop and smell the blossoms. Enjoy cherry bomb in the moment because, like life, this blend is fleeting. Drink it with people you care about. Well, they care about me, so because our lives are too ephemeral to be aware of its complexity, dark and floral, but don't take its simple, fresh fruitiness for granted. And perhaps most importantly, don't take this shit too serious. It's just cider. It's Sakura time, baby. We hope you think it's the bomb. Cool. Try not to take it too seriously. Oh. Let's see, the moment I cracked it, it's got a nice red color to it. Oh! And it is very effervescent. I have a feeling, though, that like a lot of ciders, that effervescence is going to fade pretty quickly. I can smell the cherry, I can tell you that. That's a lovely red. Very, very bubbly. Still quite effervescent. Like I said, it didn't maintain the head, but there were a lot of bubbles still coming up from that nucleation point at the bottom of the glass. Wow. Look at that dark red color. It's almost like a deep red wine or a red fruit juice. Well, it technically is fruit juice, just a little fermented. Now it's more complex than that, but you know what I mean. Pardon. But yeah, wow. I'm assuming there's a lot of cherry in this because that color is amazing. Still getting a little hint of that bitterness in the finish, in the aroma, but overall, just a nice sweet fruitiness with a cherry forward aroma. Decent amount of cherry flavor. Still a hint of bitterness underneath, but it's, cherries, like real fresh cherries, not artificial cherry flavor, do have some bitterness to them. I believe they're a stone fruit, right? Classified as a stone fruit, and it's the stone or the seed that brings some of that bitterness. Anyway. Smooth. Easy to drink. Like I said, quite cherry forward, but still a hint of bitterness and maybe some, not really dryness, but just that slight bitterness underneath. Hint of apple in the finish, but mostly getting cherry. It's good. Quite good. I'm hitting this with a 3.5 as well. Again, it's really good. There's nothing that I can say negative about it. I've had other cherry beverages, whether it be a cherry laden hard cider or a fruit wine or something like that's very similar. So it's not standing out or distinguishing itself, so it's getting that slightly above average rating because it is good. I have nothing bad to say about it. I just don't have, it's like I said, it's not standing out, which again isn't a bad thing. It's solid and you're getting exactly what you expect out of it. So I'm going to finish this one up. We're going to move on to the next. All right, next up, Dabby. Let's see. This one also gluten-free. Like I said, no surprise. I'm sure they all will be. Let's see. 7% ABV. Big Pippin Buds Poppin' and the Mac Dabby's Drop. Our first limited release is the unlikely duo of a quintessential Maine dessert apple, and a famed English bittersweet. The Vinous, 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 ripe and honeycomb tones of our beloved Macintosh blended with the juicy floral and tannic Dabinet, I guess, I don't know, embody one of our missions, supporting local and bringing real bittersweet cider fruit to the masses. Cheers for spring. Okay, so this was their first limited release, so it may have been out for a while, I don't know. Mac Dabby. I think when we ran into them at the Brewfest that I mentioned, they just had their original and maybe the semi-dry, possibly a third one. I can't quite recall. Ooh, that smells nice and sweet, and I can smell the apple aroma from here. It smells a lot sweeter than the previous two. It's a little cloudy, slightly effervescent, but not a lot of bubbles coming up through there. Actually seems to have a darker, more golden yellow tinge than the original. Now, they mentioned, smelling like a dessert apple. It does definitely smell like freshly sliced apples that are getting ready to go into an apple pie. That's just kind of what I'm associating that aroma with. Smells sweeter than the others, than the previous two. Tastes a bit sweeter too. It's got a... it's still a fairly light mouthfeel. I'm going to say medium light, because it's got a little more body to it than the original. They hint more sweetness and a little bit more tartness in the finish. Not so dry, and I'm not getting as much of the alcohol flavor as I was from the original. And I know I usually try not to compare. I keep wanting to say beers. I'm sorry. I try not to compare the beverages to the same ones from the same brewery or cidery at the same time in the same video, but just the fact that I've got them all right in front of me and I'm going one after the other is kind of... I'm mentally drawing those comparisons, and so I'm just blurting them out. Regular viewers know of all the little quirks and eccentricities that I hate about these videos, because it's basically a stream of consciousness thing, and I don't know when to shut up sometimes. Like just then. Just for the record, I was completely sober before I started these, so... yeah. So yeah, a little sweeter, a little bit more tartness in the finish. That pie image that jumped into my head is making me almost taste hints of cinnamon in there as well. So that could just be my imagination. They didn't mention actually adding any spices or anything to this. As far as, I can tell based on the labels, this is basically just a flat-out apple ciders so far with, cherries. I don't think there's anything added to the fruit juices that are used to make these, but I could be wrong on that as well. Smooth and easy. I'm bumping this one up to a 4. 4 out of 5. It's just one of the better ciders that I've had overall. It's kind of distinguishing itself that way. Nothing in particular that I can point to about it is making it stand out in my mind, other than the fact that the overall experience, the overall flavor is just it's solid. It's there. It's good. It's appley without being boozy. It's got some body to it. It's just, yeah, it is what it is. I'm enjoying this one more. I'm putting it up to the 4 out of 5. I'm going to finish it up. We're going to move on. I believe the mulled is next. What? All right, so next up is the Sweet Mulled Hard Cider from Freedom's Edge. This is Sweet Mullet. Also gluten-free, 6.5% ABV. Our take on a sweet, spiced libation consumed during the pagan ritual of wassailing. May we drink the health of orchards that bear our cider fruit. May we drink the health of orchards that bear our cider fruit. Here's to thee, old apple tree, that blooms well, bears well, hats full, caps full, 3 bushel bags full, and all under one tree. Hurrah, hurrah. I don't know, is that an original composition, or is that from something? Doesn't matter. You get the idea and the sentiment. Ooh, that's a light color. Oh, I should have rolled the can. Okay, I wish I'd known that ahead of time. So there's a lot of sediment there at the end of the pour. Not a bad thing. Personally, I'm not a big fan of sediment in my brews, but I have learned to get over that and just deal with it. For me, it's more of a visual thing. I'm worried that there's going to be some texture to it, like I'm going to have to chew or deal with those particulates in any way, shape, or form. 90% of the time, that is not the case. I can see that it's definitely hazy and cloudy, and there are some larger flocks of particulates down here in the bottom floating around. If I had thought ahead of time or realized ahead of time that there would be that much sediment in the can, I would have given it a nice gentle roll. The gentle roll combined with a tap on the cap is going to prevent it from effervescing to the point where it explodes and just gushes all over the place. But this did mix the sediment pretty well into the cider. Yes, I'm hesitating because, again, I have that, and I'm learning to get over it. With a lot of beers that have sediment in it, I realize that I'm not going to actually get any texture to them, and I've slowly, pardon, I did have a couple of sodas this evening before doing these videos, which is why I'm really gassy. Anyway, so the sediment should not be as much of an issue for me as it is, but it still, yeah, it still gets to me. Anyway. Smells nice. It smells like a full-on cider, like a regular non-alcoholic cider, straight out of the jug, and it actually apple cider, like a straight-on full-up cider, full up. Anyway, a full-on cider. Regular non-alcoholic. If you warm it up, it does take on a slightly different aroma than just the cold stuff right out of your fridge. I swear, folks, there is a difference. This is straight out of the fridge but smells like a warmed cider. Now, That's not going to make sense to a lot of you. It makes sense to me, and it's going to make sense to some of you. So, anyway, it is what it is. It smells like a warmed cider, and there might be little hints of spices there. Now, again, I'm hesitating because of the sediment thing, but also the one time I actually had a mulled cider done at home, somebody gave this girl I was dating at the time a cider mull, which was basically a dried half of an orange with a bunch of spices and other dried up fruit stuck in it, and heated up some apple cider in a pot on the stove, and that orange just fell apart, and it was the grittiest and nastiest shit I've ever had in my mouth. It was like drinking hot fucking sand. Anyway, this will not be the same as that, but the mulled cider thing is just bringing up those memories combined with my issues with the appearance of sediment in my beverages. So, yeah, I just need to get over it. That's delicious. And again, as I said, there's no texture, there's no issues at all from that sediment. And I know this from experience, but other past experiences are still deeply ingrained and overriding that. Ooh. That is really good. It's still a medium light mouthfeel. It actually has more body than the Mac. Oh my god. Mac Dabby. I knew it wasn't Mac Daddy. The Mac Dabby. It has a little bit more body than that, but it's not quite hitting that medium mouthfeel category. It's sweet. It tastes like a flat out apple cider with no hint of booziness. There's some, I don't know what the spices are in there, but I'm assuming there's some spices mulled into it. Or maybe just warming it up and then putting it in the fridge afterwards. Maybe the simple act of warming it up once changes the flavor profile. I don't know. But this is like... I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of getting cinnamon, maybe clove. I almost want to say allspice. And again, this is the flavor I'm getting. Those spices may or may not be in there, but that's the experience I'm getting. I'm just basically trying to say I could be psyching myself out. And this happens with a lot of stuff. You can think that you're getting certain flavors that are actually in the beverage. Ooh, pardon. But if you expect them to be there, then they are. There might also be a hint of citrus in there. And there's something underlying it. Something similar to the cinnamon, complementing it. Maybe some nutmeg. I don't know. Anyway, this one's really good. I don't know if I've ever had another cider similar to this. If I have, it was long enough ago that I don't remember it. I'm hitting this one with a 5 out of 5. This is really, really fucking good. I'm kind of blown away. I'm getting that, I didn't necessarily say wow, but I'm getting that wow reaction that I expect from something that I give a full-on 5 out of 5 rating. I mean, maybe it's getting some extra credit for the fact that I was expecting in my head, not based on anything in reality, I was expecting that negative textural experience, and it turned out not to be the case. There's still some pretty decent size flecks in there. I'm not going to say chunks, but they're almost chunk sized. Anyway, I mean, look how fast this is going down. This is delicious. I guess maybe that more than anything I can say speaks for this cider. The mulled, full on 5 out of 5. I'm loving it. Really, really good. Anyway, I'm going to finish this one up, and we're going to just rinse out the glass, cleanse my palate with some water, and I'll be dropping into the 5th one in just a minute. Yep. Sooner than I thought, even. All right, so we're up to the 5th and final Freedom's Edge Cider that I was able to secure at Damon's on a recent visit. They may have more varieties out there. I haven't looked them up on Untapped or anything like that yet. And again, I need to get my ass over there in person and check them out. But this is their Rosé hard cider, made from bitter, sharp, red-fleshed Redfield apples. Okay, most of these rosé ciders come from a red-fleshed apple. 6.2% ABV, also gluten-free. As I said at the top of the video, these are all gluten-free, no surprises. There's no write-up on this one. Okay, Redfield Rose. A couple of old-timey photos of some attractive women on there. Okay, we're not going to go into detail on that because I am for alcoholic beverages deep. Interesting. Now, I was looking forward to the write-up on it because each one of these has had a little story on the label, but this one does not. Oh, very reminiscent of most rosé ciders, and I think they decided with the rosé instead of the pink because rosé wines tend to have a similar coloration to rosé ciders, and that's what we're getting. We're getting like a tinted. A brownish tinted pink. It was quite effervescent on the pour. Still a few bubbles coming up through, but the head didn't remain. The head didn't stick around for very long. But very clear, not cloudy. Big departure from the last one. And like I said, I positioned this one last in the lineup because the rosé ciders do tend to have a bit of a winey flavor, and that can overpower some of the other flavor experiences in these. If these were beers, I would have lined them up from lower IBUs, International Bitterness Units, an indication of hoppiness, to the higher, regardless of alcohol content. But because they're ciders, it's a little bit more of a guessing game for me, so the rosé ciders tend to have a more overpowering winey flavor in it. I mentioned that before. So that's why this one was coming last. We'll see. Because so far, I've gotten this right, in my opinion. Anyway. Slightly red wine or rosé wine aroma. I'm not much of a wine guy, but it's just got that somewhat fruity, somewhat boozy aroma, but nothing specific coming up through. And it's weird. The red flesh apples, I don't think I've ever actually eaten one by itself. I've only ever had them in hard cider form, not even a regular cider, just a hard cider. But yeah, very characteristic of rosé wines, in my experience. Again, not much of a wine guy. We're back to a medium. No. Yes. Yeah. A medium light mouthfeel. Same thing we had with the mulled. But it's got a bit of a tingle to it. It's sparkly. Whereas some of the others just kind of rolled off the tongue as a lick. as a liquid. This has some effervescence as you're swallowing it, so it's bubbling up on your tongue. Smooth, easy drinking. It's got a relatively, primarily to the mulled cider, because that was the last one I had, but overall to all of them, a relatively neutral flavor, but there's some sweetness, a hint of booziness, that alcohol coming through. It's like a rosé spritzer, I guess, if I wanted to compare it to anything. Mostly neutral flavor, hint of sweetness, hint of apple, hint of wine. Yeah, it's easy to drink. It's going down fast. Honestly, this is going to sound bad, but it's like it would be the most pleasant seltzer I'd ever had. I'm sorry, it's a little watery. It's a little watery, but it's got body to it. I know this isn't making any sense. It's got body to it, so it's obviously a cider. You know there's some substance there. But in terms of the flavor, pardon, it's kind of muted. But the fact that this is easy to drink and delicious, I mean, I'm saying delicious because honestly, hiccups are trying to break through here, and I'm gonna put the stop to those. In the back of my mind, I'm still comparing it to seltzers instead of a cider, which isn't fair, but that's immediately where my mind is going. Is that this is one of the best seltzers I've ever had, but it's not a seltzer, it's a cider. I know, I'm in a weird spot with that right now. Anyway, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5 as well. For the simple fact that it's messing with me a little bit. I keep going back to that seltzer comparison, in which case it would be one of the best seltzers I've ever had. In terms of ciders, I got nothing bad to say about it in the cider world. It's good. In terms of rosé ciders, it's probably the easiest drinking rosé cider I've ever had. So, but I'm not quite willing to push it up to a 4.5 or a 5. It's really impressing me with its drinkability and its overall flavor and the experience. And the fact that it's confusing me is getting it some extra points, because I keep going back to that seltzer comparison, even though this is a cider. And it's got those wine characteristics that a rosé cider has. And rosé ciders don't always hit me that well because of the wine comparison, but this one's doing better than those. So, anyway. This one's really fucking with me, and I will probably get a few more of them. But anyway, that's where I'm at. I mean, this is a pretty solid lineup. There are no losers here. Freedom's Edge is doing a really good job with their seltzers. See? See? These are ciders. But I'm still in that seltzer mindset. Anyway. A couple of 3.5s, 2 4s, and a 5. Out of a 5 beverage lineup, I mean, you. I've had variety packs from huge breweries that are rated worse than that. It was a good deal, man. Anyway. Freedom's Edge. Check them out. In person if you can. At your local store if you can. Although I'm not sure if they distribute outside of Maine. I hope they do someday. Because this is a pretty solid lineup. I'd like to see them go at least regional, if not national. Anyway, that's just what I have to say about the Freedom's Edge ciders. Hit me up down below in the comments or the email link. Love to hear what you have to say about these guys, any of the ciders that they make. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I still want to hear from you, because that's the thing. Taste is subjective, so we'll discuss it rationally like fucking adults. You know, I'm not going to insult you. Well, unless you're a complete idiot, then I will insult you. But anyway, no. Let's talk about it. While you're down there, don't forget to like and share the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, folks, thanks for tuning in. Fucking drink local. Most local guys kick ass. Cheers.